I'm bringing tequila for all the episodes from this.
Oh, I'm glad. I missed the tequila episode. Tequila.
You created the tequila episode from this day forward. It's in your honor. You're getting toasted every time.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to the Beauty Ritual Podcast. I am your host, Eva. We facilitate conversations about age, beauty, and identity in a world where the pressure to conform arises every day. This is your dose of perfection correction. And today I would like to welcome my guest on the podcast, Kelly Gilbert. Hi.
So great to be here. Thanks for having me.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling not perfect.
Okay.
Pretty far from it, actually.
Okay. I like that.
Just giving it to you how it is.
You know what? There's nothing better. There's nothing better. Listen, you work in a very interesting industry. It's a little bit mysterious to me. It's basically creating events for companies like Disney, BeachBody, now under another name. Body. It's like Twitter, you know?
Formerly.
I'm
Formerly
X.
Twitter, now X. Yes.
X, formerly Twitter.
Formerly BeachBody, now Body.
That's still a huge part of what the beauty and aesthetic world links to is a lot of, fitness, wellness, this and that. I think that what I'm looking forward to most is your general sense of self. We didn't talk about this at all, preempting this conversation, but do you feel like anything from your professional life has informed your sense of feeling comfortable in your own skin?
Oh, 100%, because it's wellness and fitness. So I'm surrounded by thousands of people that are always trying to get thinner, a better body, healthier. Those are the rules by which sort of everyone governs themselves. Those are the goals. So you're around it all the time, especially when you're on an event and you're in a room with 3,000 people working out all at the same time. You can't help but measure bodies and measure them against yourself in sort of that passing moment. And so many times I leave an event, I'm like, oh man, I'm going to start working out harder. Like all these ladies have got some amazing bodies. Like I gotta time to put the pedal to the metal. Then I go home and not much changes.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because I think that there's like two separate spheres happening there. You're seeing movement, you're in movement, and then you're also having that felt sense of self, right?
Yeah.
So where does that intersect into one experience? Like, does it make you more comfortable in your own skin, or are you less comfortable? Or
I think comfort in your own skin, and while we've discussed multiple times, I really think that is the key to happiness. And I think I've discovered that much later in my life by chasing so many other things, thinking that they would make me happy, where I really think that's the focus. But when you're constantly, it's like social media coming alive. Like you're literally in a room with thousands of beautiful women whose job is to take care of their bodies, take care of their mind, take care of their families. They're very focused on their outward appearance and their inward appearance. So it's kind of in your face for, the days of the event.
Hold on. You just said inward appearance, and I think that just blew my mind a little bit, because I feel like so many people curate how they inwardly appear, right? Because it's like marketable to be like a bit of a guru, right? We have been in this guru era, and so people sort of orchestrate this way that they shine out how they feel inside, but it's not necessarily genuine or authentic. Yeah.
I think especially when you're in with a group of people that you're all sort of in the same industry, I think that's where it kind of becomes a little harder to stay authentic, because we're just naturally creatures of competition, so and you're always comparing yourself, I think, especially as a woman. And also, if you throw in sort of the age factor, the majority of them are significantly younger than I am. And so it's hard to sort of find that bridge between, hey, you know what, I'm fine just as I am. They're who they are, I'm who I am. But but they're beautiful and they take care of their bodies, and don't get me wrong, everybody's somewhere else on their journey. Like, nobody there's perfect. Everybody's always working. There's people at the very beginning of their journey, and people that are maintaining, and people, in the middle. So there's all different types of people. So it makes you really sort of reflect on where you are in your headspace, and inside, and what you're sort of trying to project out, I think sometimes is different to what you really feel.
Yeah. I think that I would die to come and observe. I really would, because when you say that it's social media come alive, I feel like that would just be a circus for my mind, because I would wonder, as an observer, I don't have to perform. I don't have to compete. I don't have to shine out an image necessarily.
Right.
But if I had, in my own way, come to this sense of, wow, being comfortable in my own skin is like the secret to having a balance with life and having a balance with interacting with beauty and aesthetic. How does that change the way that I interact in this scene, a bit of this theater? And what is my sense of the other person? Like, how much are they aware of that in themselves? Like, does it matter? All of those dynamics.
I think it definitely matters, because so many of these people are mentoring other people. So I think they have to find that balance between being authentic, but also being sincere and real to who they are. Like, they're not perfect. Everybody's infallible. Everybody has a bad day. Everybody has a donut. And I think the key is in being comfortable in your own skin, or a dozen. But the key is, I'm going to have the donut and I'm not going to beat myself up for it. Like, we call it, at our company, we call it health esteem. It's that being happy wherever you are in your journey. And, it's not we're always reaching to get to the end result. I have to lose the 10, I have to lose the 15 pounds. But that really isn't what it's about. It's about being happy every day leading up to that goal. And sometimes taking a step back from that goal. And I feel, for my personal life, like, that's something I really try to get down to every day. It's like, how can I be comfortable in my own skin, even when I'm sitting with my hair in a bun, I'm sitting on Zoom all day, wearing no makeup, and it's really easy to sit there and punish yourself all day, and you're doing this with your neck, and you're trying to find the right angle and all that, and because you're constantly comparing yourself to other people in the Zoom, other people in your industry, other people on your team. And it's that, and especially as somebody who's sort of hit the middle age mark, you have to, it gives you a different lens on life and what's important. But still, every day you sort of struggle with that need to be perfect, or at least closer to perfect, because perfect is by far unachievable.
Absolutely. And I think that it's simple and broad at the same time, because at any age we can habitually punish ourselves, and sometimes it's cool to seem like, oh no, I'm not, blah, blah, right?
The self-deprecation.
But I think that as we realize, oh my God, we are in this world of consuming, and we're in this world of competing. I didn't quite see it that way, but it is a little bit of a competition sometimes to always look good, always look hot, always look fucking hot.
Yes, being fucking hot is like, when we do these events and they come out and they have put their best foot forward.
Right.
They have their stylists and their outfits, and they want to know.
They're professional.
Yes, they're professional.
And like, when you're at home, like, how are you supposed to be yourself, like, under that same amount of pressure outside of like a professional
But
place?
I think it's acknowledging the pressure, and it's acknowledging how you're going to go up against it. It's really hard for people, and to your point, it is a lot of theater when you're out there and 10,000 people are out there working out at 6:30 in the morning, But they're also create sort of this community, and where people are, they're feeding off each other, and they're helping people, and they're encouraging people. And I think we lose some of that, because I think sometimes when you're at home, you're by yourself. You don't have that sort of sense of somebody sort of moving you along and being enthusiastic and all that. And I think that becomes sort of a really easy hole to go down, especially for me when you get isolated. And when you get isolated, I think it's really easy to kind of go off the rails.
Because I think that you're showing a really positive side to the community aspect, to putting your best foot forward. And I think that there's kind of two things happening at the same time, where you can have that like positive effect that you're taking from the group mind, right?
Yeah.
It could be social media, even sometimes you could take something positive, right? You could be motivated by something, I don't know. And then there's also the interior, like mental mind, right? So if you are sitting and like over analyzing yourself, like picking for me, it's I break out. So I'm like, if there's like one little thing, I'm after it. I'm here to fry it. I'm here to fry it. I don't need to do that, right?
Right.
But the balance of having the bigger picture sometimes doesn't come without a lot of experience.
Well, I think to your point there, I think the rough edges are way more interesting than the smooth ones. So I think I think it's the things that we're afraid of and the things we're uncomfortable with that sort of lend some character to that. But I do think when you got a lot of estrogen in one place and a lot of women, and I know it's go girl power and we're all in this together and all that, but like there's still this very like dark sort of sense of being competitive and comparing yourself, and oh, her dress is better, and oh my God, I love the way she did her makeup. Why can't I do my makeup like that? And her hair, and it's like, ooh, she put on some weight. Like, we can't help ourselves to like look at those flaws in other people, and I think people use those flaws in other people to make them feel better about themselves, but ultimately it doesn't. It brings you down, actually, I think.
Look, if you're 30 years old in that environment, you're going to probably feel differently than when you're 40, than when you're 50.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm old enough to be some of these people's mothers. Like, it's you look at it with a different lens.
I would imagine it would be easier to feed into it the younger that you are.
Yeah.
And it might push you to make decisions that are more of the moment, shall we say, right?
Right. Yeah, your wisdom button isn't necessarily being pushed all the time, because you're just in the moment and you're reacting.
Yeah.
And when you're younger and you don't have as much of a sense of self, or you're insecure, or you're not feeling comfortable in your own skin, like that's sort of when you make decisions that may not be the best ones, or compel you to get out of that situation.
We're kind of comparing all these ages, and I think that in so many different settings we think of how can maybe our older self have talked to our younger self then, right? And you did a beautiful job just now of painting what it's like to be in that reactive, inexperienced kind of phase, and how easy it is to just be in the whirlwind of that and to not have the full breadth of like wisdom, basically.
I think, and we've talked about this quite a bit over the years, but if my 53-year-old self spoke to my 25-year-old self, my 30-year-old self, my 35-year-old self, there would be some pretty hard conversations. And they would be like, there's some shit I have done, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. And what was I thinking? And what a big mistake. But at 30 or 25, like I never would have listened had someone told me. You just don't. Like, you have to figure it out by doing things. That's the way I am. You can tell me how hot the water is. It's hot, it's hot, it's hot. I'm like, no, not that hot. And I stick my finger in it. When the waiter brings you the fajita platter and it's like, it's hot, watch out. And it's like, 3rd-degree burnt. But like,
we can't learn everything from watching. You have to experience life.
And that's what gives you wisdom. Like, you're more interesting from your scars. You're more interesting from the things that you do. And I know that's very cliche, but it's not the easy things that make you interesting.
It's not.
It's the hard things that make you interesting, and the hard things that bring you wisdom to the next situation.
I also feel that they can bring you a lot more love, because those times where you realize that was my mistake, can I love myself at the same time realizing I made a mistake? And can I open up beyond that?
And can I forgive myself? Can I be kind to myself? And I'm one of those people that's not. I will beat myself up about every mistake. I'm that person that gets into bed at night and I think about all the things I did wrong, said wrong. Ooh, maybe I shouldn't have sent that email. And I'm always processing it and doing it. And then, but I do have now, later in my life, this sort of lever. It's like, okay, I'm in this situation. I literally want to blow somebody's head off. And then I think for a second, how will I feel tomorrow if it's just that one half a second pause where it's like, how am I going to feel when I go home tonight and it stops me. But it's like, I haven't always had that same sense of.
I wish I had more of that sense. You're telling it to me right now and I'm like, oh, there's a sense before explosion.
Yeah.
Oh,
no,
got it.
there honestly, sometimes there is this tiny little second that comes and you're like, oh yeah, I'm not going to do that. Like, I really, really, really want to do it, but I know that feeling and that how awful I feel the next day or the next hour or the next week, when I think about it. And that's growth. That's how we spread our wings.
It is. I think it's interesting when we talk about those moments of feeling really hard on ourselves, how we describe the pockets of growth, right?
Right.
Because I always think about it like an old video game. If you've ever played a video game that the map opens up every time you solve a level, there's like the little part that you solved and there's all the black around it.
Right.
It's like the stuff that you just don't know, and then there's another part of the map that opens every time that you unlock a piece of it. And it's a constant evolution and constant unlocking of like, how do I, see more around this like habitual relationship with myself?
Right. Well, it's fluid. I think life is really fluid. And I think, if we have one sort of concrete way of looking at things, it doesn't, you're going to get the same result. So you're kind of spreading that map and you're seeing sort of all the unknown things. You have to be sort of open to those changes and those shifts and like the unknown. Like when I learn something new every day, whether I want to or not. Like something that's like, oh my God, like conversation we had earlier about purpose. It was just something I'd never thought about and it never crossed my mind. And then it's like, wow, that is really important. Like that is really something I need to think about and something I need to apply to my life. I think when you're younger, and I think bringing it, back to the beauty thing, I think the aesthetics that you judge yourself by are different, and that it's
different in what sense? In the sense different at the age that you are, or in the profession that you are? Because the more conversations I have, the more I realize I judge a lot of beauty things by my profession. So I look at it as if it's raw data, not necessarily so personal.
I look at it as it's emotion. Like
Right.
You're looking at it from a very clinical, knowledgeable thing. I'm looking at like that lip liner may save my life today.
Right.
And if I don't walk out of Sephora with it, game changing.
Right.
But I think we all fall, suit to that. I think that's the vulnerability. I think the beauty industry makes us do that.
That lip liner will save my life because it will make all the people that I work with happy. So it actually might save my life.
It might actually save a life.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's hard to. We're always looking for an outcome, and it's difficult to just sort of be in the moment.
Is that from our concrete thinking?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
I don't think we'd be looking as much for an outcome because every time you say life is fluid, it's like I've never heard it before.
It changes every day for me, and I'm different every day.
Right.
The way I wake up, I'm always like, I woke up on the wrong side of the broom today. Watch out, everybody. You know, and it's like, but the next day, for no apparent reason, I wake up and I feel different. And how I approach my life is different depending on my mood.
Why do I forget that? Why do I forget that life is fluid? Because I don't have as much of that attuned sense that you describe. It's so, I can kind of tap into it sometimes, but is that something that you have developed, or have you always had that sense?
Well, I think when I say fluidity, it's like, has your life turned out the way you thought?
No.
So it's always changing.
But it's been so unexpected for such a long time that I
Stop planning.
I planned differently, let's say.
God laughs at those that make plans, and I have discovered that
he does
many, many times.
I am sure he cackles.
Yeah, I mean, I like whenever he needs a guttural thing.
He, she, they.
Yeah, he, she, they, universe, whatever you want to refer to it as.
Cackling.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure I'm a gut buster up there.
Honestly.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm not holding a grudge. I'm really not. I promise I'm not, okay? Oh man. You know, your aunt famously said, youth is wasted on the young. And I think we've heard this quote. We have to have heard it, everyone in their life, a million times.
Yes. And when you're youthful and you hear it, you think it's the most annoying thing anyone can say to you. And when you're older and you see all these kids with not a trouble in the world, but finding problems and just not being able to sort of appreciate their physical abilities as well as their sort of emotional, it's different when you're have to pay a mortgage and a car payment and take care of kids or a dog or whatever. It's like adulting sucks, and nobody really takes you through sort of how hard adulting is. And when you kind of get to that level, and I wish the youth of today were more carefree. I mean, clearly we're giving them lots of problems that they're going to inherit, like, you know, global warming and terrible politics and wars and all these really terrible things. But it's like sometimes still, even in their youth, like they don't have to deal with those things quite yet. So it's that ability to just be sort of carefree and in the moment. When you sort of hit the adult, you know, lotto number, it's not fun. And
you know what's funny?
What?
I realize that nobody knows how to actually do that. Nobody really knows how to, because we all have a spark of youth within us at any age. I have this memory of my grandfather at 77. We were in Poland, and there was some kind of structure that used to be on this hillside, and all that was left were 10 flights of stone stairs that led up to nothing on top of this hill. And he was 77, and he ran up that hill, up all the stairs, sprinted up them. And I had to run and catch up with him, okay? He was gone. He's like, I can do these stairs. And I got to the top, and I just remember seeing that spark of youth in his eyes. You know, his breath was quick, and he's like, I did that. Like, do you see me? He was so excited about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I guess at any age we can ignore that, and we have more ability at other times. I'm not saying that at 17 those steps would have been nothing for you, but it's almost just like the presence of it that you realize, like, I have this spark of life.
If you lose the spark of life, I'm not really sure what's left if you don't have that. I think that if I lost that, there's always something I want to do or someplace I want to go, or like, I think when you start losing that purpose and that intention, it's devastating.
Look, I think we lose it obsessing over how we look.
100%.
And I am in the business of how you look, okay? I'm not denying that, or that it's fine in certain contexts. But social media, all the mirroring, all the feedback, we get completely lost in how we look and how we're not enough. Because all of the script around how we interact with our image is almost entirely negative. And I think that a lot of that is advertising. Because advertising, the more negative it is, the more it's like you have a problem that I can solve.
Yeah. No, it's like, let me draw out your weakness and your insecurities and literally bubble them as far to the surface as I can and explode them. And I think that that's what people, you know, do. Your boobs aren't big enough, and, you know, your nose, and, you know, oh, your hair color and your haircut, and oh my God, that makeup and your skin. Ugh. Like, there are so many things a part of our aesthetic that, like, there are days when I would go into the office, I would go through 10 outfits, and it's like, I couldn't decide, like, I just wanted to crawl back into bed, and or I was having a bad hair day, or I just didn't, like, if my hair's really bad, like, I have a bad day, like, 100%. If I'm not liking my hair, it immediately starts my day off on the wrong note.
That is factual. I stand.
Yeah.
Gavel.
I mean, you would know of all people.
I do know.
It is.
And if you have a bad hair day, I'm having a real bad day.
Yeah. Especially if I've just left here.
I'm just saying.
It's true.
Day ruiner. But regardless, it's become so ingrained that I think we don't even realize our entire sense of self is like a physical aesthetic.
It is, and that's the thing. What would be great is I'm having a bad hair day. I have a stain on my shirt. I'm feeling bloated, and I just don't feel great. But I can go out into the world, and I'm not a raging bitch.
Right.
You know, that's being comfortable in your skin.
Right.
Where it's
or
just,
you look perfect, everything's perfect, and you're a raging bitch.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you gotta realize it's not gonna buy you happiness.
No. It does not buy you happiness.
Getting the boobs, getting the face, getting the da-da-da. And trust me, if I had a set of those, it's my dream. I'm going to terrorize the world with those fake boobies.
But here's the thing. You don't have to go under the knife to get them.
I know. I'll just get a good bra.
There you go.
I know.
See? And it's like, so we can actually sort of try on those things before you do other things, before you go under the knife. Like, I've done some surgical procedures, and thinking back, I'm like, wish I hadn't done it. Really wish I hadn't done it. Wish I hadn't spent the money, the time, never got the outcome I wanted. So it's that, but even if they were perfect, I don't think I would have gotten the outcome. So, because it's always something better, something different. There's, oh, well, why didn't I do that? And you just can never really find that sort of state of self-contentment where it's like, everything's fine. Everything's just fine. My jeans are a little tight today, and, you know, I'm going to go about my day, and I'm not going to let that ruin my day, because it doesn't matter.
Right.
But it does.
Right. I think that it's really strange, and we all have those things. We all have triggers when it comes to our physical appearance that I don't even know if they can fully be solved. But physically solving them doesn't unlock more self-love. That I do know. But I have my own thing. Having bad skin, I will spend every dime I have to figure out how to, like, stop my skin from breaking out. I can't do it. I admit it, it's ridiculous. Like, there are bigger problems in the world.
Absolutely.
But, you know, if I have acne rashes, like, your girl's gonna go to wherever she needs to go.
But
back alley, wherever we need to go.
And it's easy to say there are bigger problems in the world, and there are. And it's really important to keep perspective and to put those things first. But it's like, it's still, you're gonna have a bad day if your skin's broken out. Like,
well, and here's the interesting thing is, yes, I will.
Not a bad day. It's not going to be your best moment. Like, that's one of those things that works against sort of that being comfortable in your own skin.
Well, no, you actually sort of triggered a thought for me, because I recently have come to a place where I'm really happy with myself. And yes, like, having a ton of acne, it will send me into the weirdest spiral. If I, like, met you on a hiking trail and I had tons of, like, my pimples out, I would just be like, oh, really, it's you, hi. Like, I would just, like, I would get so weird. But now I don't have those feelings of like I'm unworthy or I'm a horrible person, like, which is crazy to apply to a bad skin moment, right?
Right.
And I have a little bit more gentleness with myself when I get really nervous and shy.
Yeah.
When I see someone, or right, and I'm like out in my natural element. And I think that acknowledging those little moments of growth where I can still look the person in the eye. I don't shy away that much.
Right.
And I'm okay with I'm okay with my state.
Right. You don't need to go hide under a rock.
I don't need to go hide under a rock, and I don't need to beat myself up and have a bad day.
Are you sitting there talking to this person and thinking, are they just looking at my pimples?
100%. 100%. And that's silly.
Yeah.
It's really silly.
And probably they don't even notice because it's such a trigger for you, and they probably don't even see it.
Who knows what they're seeing? I could probably be listening to them better, having a better conversation if I wasn't so focused and obsessed with myself. It's ridiculous.
But how do we get to a place where those things don't bother us and they don't affect us, and they don't, if I'm 5 pounds heavier, 5 pounds lighter, or I cut my hair short, too short, didn't like it, like we've lived through that together. So where do you find that it just doesn't matter?
I think it's a hunt. I think it's a constant hunt for those.
It is.
For those little moments that we're describing, and they're different for each thing and each trigger and each evolution. But overall, I do think it is knowing yourself. And it's funny to apply purpose to beauty, but I think when you know what your purpose is and who you are and what you're here to do, it loses its priority to have to look and be so physically perfect. It does dilute it, because you start to see, okay, what am I here to do? What is my grander purpose?
Let's focus on that and not on all my idiosyncrasies and issues and faults.
It takes some of the pressure off of it, and I think it allows in this sense of more organic interaction. It's not, I have to have 100% of makeup on all the time.
Right.
It's not, I have to, work out to the bone and be super skinny all the time. It's like, you know what, I'm going to work out so that I feel strong and got my body moving, and I'm going to wear makeup to this event, or I'm going to wear it to work.
We have to find the things that make us happy, both on the inside and the outside. But I think the inner beauty, and everyone knows that your inner beauty definitely affects your outer beauty.
I think it's more important the older you get.
I agree.
Every age, I'm realizing you can't override your personality with cuteness.
Outer beauty gets harder and harder to maintain, but inner beauty can constantly evolve.
Interesting.
Marinate on that.
I'm marinating because I find that I work with all different ages.
Yeah.
It's part of why I love my job. I love being anywhere where all ages are present. Something I love it. I think it feels natural. To be in a room of only people the same age would just be, no. And this is why I'm not a teacher of only 5-year-olds. No. I need to mix.
Variety.
I need to mix. I need variety, okay? I lost my train of thought just thinking of what a nightmare it would be.
To be a first grade teacher.
Yeah. And you know what? There are some really good ones out there. I'm glad y'all are doing what you do. You should be paid more.
100%.
No, so I think being able to interact with people of all ages and seeing people later in life and being with them through the years, when I see a really, really beautiful being in an older body, it shines bigger than the body. There's a sense of persona that is just bigger, so much bigger than hyper fixating on a laugh line.
Right.
it would be ridiculous for me to look at that person and say they have a laugh line.
Right.
Because who they are is so expansive and wonderful and broad and wise and joyful.
But that all comes from the inside, and that's
100%.
and so much harder to work on, fix, curate than your outside.
But do you know how dumb it would be to like go to Nelson Mandela and be like, look at your forehead wrinkles, dude. You should Botox it.
Yes.
And maybe he should. I don't know. I haven't seen his forehead lately.
I think he's dead.
Oh, okay. I think he's fine. His forehead's fine.
It's fine. He's going to be.
I'm sure.
But there's
now,
the point.
Listen,
there's the point.
Listen.
Irrelevant.
Irrelevant.
Like anybody's.
And if they make an AI like 3D image of him, we can erase the wrinkles. It's fine.
But why would you? That's something that you are associating with him. I would hope that there's other things that pop into your mind.
No, there's more. Oh my God, I'm not associating.
No.
that.
I'm kidding. But it's interesting that that's something that you're so aware of. But I think that's who
What,
you
our
are.
hyperfixation on aesthetic?
Yes, because that's what you do.
Yes. And I also have to interact emotionally with people a lot. So I'm also hyper aware of when someone is in a great place or they're
Right.
a broad person or if they're really down.
You have like beauty goggles.
Beauty goggles.
You see inside.
And it's really important for people to be, and for me, I mean, part of my purpose in life is really about joy. It's about being joyful and spreading joy.
Yeah.
And so that's really important to me, that the people I'm with are joyful, and through beauty being joyful.
It's a tool for you. It's
100%.
a vehicle.
100%. And I'm not saying it's like it's a fixing mission. It's not.
None of us can ever be fixed. We're always.
But we view beauty as a fixing vehicle.
Yes, we do. We do. You go, you pay your money for your Botox, you come out, you want to feel fixed.
Exactly.
And that you look better, that you just took 10 years off your life, and there's an outcome that you're expecting.
Exactly.
It's hard to get those outcomes. And as soon as you get the outcome, then it's like a drug. You have to keep coming back. And you can't, Botox doesn't last forever.
No, our bodies are constantly changing, constantly metabolizing, and
That's where they get you.
yes. Even worse is when they get you when you're down, when you've gone through a breakup, when you've lost a job, or
That's where you're the most vulnerable, and you literally have a price tag on your head. Like, that's where they want you.
ouch.
It's true. When you're at your worst, it's like there are plastic surgeons galore. There's Sephora. There's everything that you could possibly run on your face, your hair, your body. It's like that's where the beauty industry is like, oh, if I go in a Sephora, it'll fix it. If I go to the plastic surgeon, it will fix it. It'll fix the pain inside.
See, I would hope that it's the corporate beauty industry, like the big machine that is that heartless, and not the people in it.
And not the people in it.
I would hope that, right? Because I would hope that the people, at least the people I know, have a lot of heart. But I think it gets really disconnected in the advertising, because it becomes this
it's a commodity.
It's a commodity, and it feels like there's all of this messaging that isn't matched with being a human.
Our level of expectation and closeness towards perfection is, and especially to your point with AI, with digital media, with all those things, like we're not getting further away from it. We're getting further away from perfection, but they're providing outlets for it. It's like you'll never be able to mold yourself in AI or to airbrush and to do all those things, all those vehicles. It just makes it worse. There's just no way to achieve that level of perfection, and it's impossible. And I feel like there's always this sort of internal struggle with that. It's like at what point do you just sort of say, like, I am who I am, and this is it?
Well, at what point did you say that?
I don't know if I've ever really said it. You know, I struggle. I'm a layman here. I'm just your average Joe girl who's really, I don't want to say struggling with, you know, being my age, but sort of, you know, trying to mitigate it and navigate it. It's full of a lot of emotions and thoughts and obstacles I never saw coming. Like, you just don't, when you feel like you're 25 inside and you walk by a mirror and you're like, oh, I am not 25, that's a lot to break down and process. Like, you have to make some sort of peace with that. And it's hard. It's not, nobody teaches you how to do that. Nobody, there's no lesson for it. And that's why I'm so hell-bent on the just being comfortable in your own skin, and just how incredibly important that is. Because I think that's what's going to solve it for me, is getting closer and closer to that state and trying to maintain that state for as long as I possibly can. Whether that's minutes, days, seconds, years, who knows?
I'm obsessed.
Yeah, like, but I'm obsessed with trying to find that, but it's a journey. It's like, I'm not sure if I ever will.
It sounds like a continual question, and it sounds like, so being, you know, on one side we have being comfortable in your own skin, and then on the other hand you have, this is who I am, like this acceptance of it. Okay, those are like two things you just said that to me live in the same little world,
right?
And I don't want to say that all the challenges and triggers are probably opportunities to either step into, like, this is who I am right now,
right?
Or to find some way to be more comfortable in your own skin.
It's that measurement of trying to find the pause, like we were talking about.
Right.
And it's like, I can either kind of throw my own personal temper tantrum
Right.
in this moment, or I can sort of maybe find the humor in it, or not care about it, and
not jump to fix it.
Right. Not jump to right.
To, you know, inject and highlight and da-da-da.
Right. And just kind of sit in it and be okay with it. And because it doesn't, as you age, like, the wrinkles don't get less, they get more. The laugh lines don't get less, they get more. It's harder to maintain your weight, your metabolism slows down. I mean, girl, when you hit menopause, God bless, it's a nightmare.
We're having people on the podcast about menopause. I think
that's a whole other.
That's something that absolutely no one talks about to younger women.
Nobody talks about it. I mean, it's now becoming a very in vogue topic.
Which is
Oprah,
good. I'm for it. I think we need to be way more in vogue than we've been.
It needs to be discussed. It is another rite of passage that is just, nobody really talks about it, or nobody talked about it to me. And you're kind of like going through it, and it's a little bit forbidden, because it's like, are you having hot flashes? You know, it's not a
Well, you know what's funny to me is I'm, you know, living life, whatever. And I'm an interested person in so many things.
Student of life.
A student of so many things. But women don't want to talk to me about menopause. They're like, oh, no, you're not going through it. You're good.
It's like one of those things, like, you wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy. Like, it is very emotional. It is very, it's daunting. And it's this, like, I could be sitting here right now and like breaking out in a hot flash, and thank goodness that I'm not, but it's a loss of control. And it's really hard it's just another thing as you're aging that you have to find some sort of peace with and some sort of acceptance of, and it's hard, especially because it's not really talked about. Even,
well, you know me well enough now that you know I'm a bit of like a Frankenstein, where I like to I'm like, okay, let me read about injectable tan for the next 5 hours and how it works and the melanation process. I don't think there's anything wrong with talking about things neutrally, even when they're loaded. But that being said, I haven't gone through any of it.
It's unpleasant. So I think you don't know where other people are in it. So it's sort of sometimes an uncomfortable topic, and it's hard. It's something else that you as a woman have to deal with that men don't, and which I find a little unfair, but nothing I can do to change that. But I think women have there's a lot on women. It's a heavy load to carry through all the stages of life, and so much of it is affected by your outer appearance. And how do you find that place?
I couldn't answer that. And that's a question that opens up
many more questions.
Unendingly.
If you figure something out, let me know.
Well, I have never been able to make a 5-year plan.
I'm struggling with
I
a
don't know how I'm
5-minute
going to
plan.
figure this out for you.
So let's just take it one day at a time.
Seriously.
Yeah, but it's trying to find those outlets.
I do think in today's world, I could be very, very positive saying this, but I think that we are less and less attached to having things look like the house, the 2.5 kids, the dog. I think that there's more fluidity in that.
I think there's more fluidity in that, and there's more acceptance of alternative lives.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to buy a house. I want to travel the world. I think there's a lot more freedom in what's acceptable and what's not. Had I said to my parents, I'm going to take a bi-year between high school and college, they would have been like, oh, no, you're not. But now it's very customary for kids to do that and to sort of have that year and, find themselves. And it's not like some criminal thing, like, oh, you're not going to college next year. So yeah, I think people's minds have opened. There's a wider level of thinking on what's acceptable and what's good for your life, as opposed to what you're supposed to do or what we think we're supposed to do, what we're initially programmed for.
Sure. It's funny because with that flexibility, I think sometimes we can still put that pressure on ourselves. And it's really hard to accept, hey.
But it's, again, making peace with your decision, who you are. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. And we say that so flippantly, like it doesn't matter. But
yeah.
it does. And we all know that. And it's that constant sort of struggle with that. Like, I can rationalize it all I want, but when I make some sort of decision and then I feel like somebody's attacking it and I have to defend it, it's like, it's hard. And you have to, we say, oh, don't worry and just be happy, and yes, those things are all true, but they're much harder to maintain and to do than sort of the flippant comment.
Yeah. This is why I enjoy our conversations. They've got a lot of meat to them.
Well, there's a lot of meat out there.
There really is.
Yeah, you're a carnivore, I'm a carnivore, it's just, we got to figure it out.
It's true.
It's the journey.
And even though there's really no destination, there's nothing concrete, you have to stop moving the goalpost at some point.
And I think that is just the best metaphor. I really do. It's just, that sort of sums it up perfectly for me.
I heard it said to someone else, and I was like, let me write this down real quick.
Good sports metaphor.
That's right.
But it's 100% true. It's like, you gotta lay it down and not keep moving the joystick around and just be solid.
Right. Physically, mentally,
emotionally.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that would be my dream, is to find a place where it's just, I find that sort of peace and that consistency of just being A-okay. Not too high, not too low, just nice in the middle.
What do you think your purpose is?
I don't know. I think that's a really interesting question, and one I haven't looked at through that lens, through that question. I know the things I want to do and that I want to be purposeful at, but I don't know what my purpose is. So I think that's a really important thing to latch onto, and something I would really need to really think about. because I think that does sort of ground you and make some of these other things less important.
Absolutely. It's definitely done that for me. It has allowed me to feel more alive. When you're under all of this external pressure and cooked down until, just like a little product, you don't feel very expressed or alive.
Right. No, I think that's a really interesting context, and just something that I would really, if I ever get invited back, I'll come back with my purpose.
We'll have like round 2.
Round 2.
Ding,
To
ding,
be
ding,
continued. Ding, ding, ding.
I would totally love to have that conversation.
I have to really give it some thought. Like that was like a ding went off in my head when we talked about that, and I really have to think about it.
I had a really interesting conversation with someone who does. Oh my God, am I gonna rabbit hole right now? Ooh,
come back.
Say, maybe I'll have that conversation on the podcast with that person, and then we'll rabbit hole for you, because it's a little too juicy to go there for y'all right now. Okay?
Hold back.
Stay sexy out there. Well, I think the last question that I would like to end on is, if the self that you are now could go back and talk to 12-year-old Kelly, what would you say?
Don't be such a head case. That's probably what I'd say.
Be nice.
I think it's just love yourself more, enjoy life more, don't take everything so seriously, and the universe will sort of work itself out, and it's just, but it's that self-love and self-worth that I think at 12, and still, I really struggled with. So I think those would be if I could go back and change something, it would be the focus on that, for sure.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Awesome.
Thank you for being here.
It was a joy.
And thank you all for tuning in to this episode of the Beauty Ritual Podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Reddit, the dark web, AliExpress, Alibaba, and everywhere you find fine podcasts. I really appreciate those of you that subscribe and hit the notification bell. It means a lot, and thank you for listening. Catch you next time.